How's it going, you guys? I've been seeing on my Instagram a lot lately about a celebrity chef named Carl Ruiz, or Carl Ruiz. I've never really heard of him before. I don't watch the Food Network. I'm not really interested in a lot of those things. Actually, I take that back. A lot of those shows are really cool. There are a lot of really good ones, but nonetheless, never heard of him before until now. And essentially, the guy was a big proponent of meat, and he posted, and from what I heard, he had a lot of anti vegan type of statements that he'd make and wore shirts that said, like, that mocked veganism, something like that. I don't really know. But basically, he did eat a lot of meat. Apparently, the guy died of a heart attack at age 44 in September, which was about a month ago. Now the thing is, like, all these vegans are saying, like, oh, he died because of the meat and blah blah blah. Now, if you look at his Instagram, especially like the last couple months leading up to his death, I mean, the guy eats a lot of junk. Okay, so yeah, sure, there's a lot of meat on there. He has hot dogs with a bun. He has hamburgers with a big portion of French fries. You know, potatoes deep fried in vegetable oil with a side of soda. Typical standard American diet, and it's not really. You can't really blame it all on meat. The majority of the fat in that guy's diet was vegetable oil. It was polyunsaturated omega 6, and sure, it's probably a lot of saturated fat too. The guy ate a lot of pizza. Okay, pizza, for those of you who don't know, is one of the primary sources of dairy calories in the American diet. Most of the saturated fat that people eat in the American diet, from the statistics I've seen, actually comes from ice cream, or it comes from cheese, typically from pizza, or it'll come from milk and stuff like that. Um, the guy was eating a lot of refined carbs. He had pictures of snack cakes on his Instagram. Like, you go look right now and you'll see, unless they take it down or something, which I don't think they will. There was a picture of him eating like box macaroni and cheese with a whole 2 liter bottle of Mountain Dew, and the caption said, "Living the good life." To me, I don't think that's a good life, because that is a clear road to diabetes, to chronic inflammation, and obviously, inflammation is the primary driver of heart disease. Actually, it's free radical damage, which turns into inflammation. Inflammation is a healing process that over time can, if left in a chronic inflammatory state, can lead to many diseases. Long story short, the guy was eating a diet that was very high in sodium. It was very high in animal products. Yes, it was. It was extremely low in fruits and vegetables and whole plant foods. In fact, all of the grains the guy was eating was white grains. It was refined grains. Lots of buns, lots of pizza dough, lots of refined grains, refined sugar, and deep fried foods. He was eating a lot of meat that wasn't deep fried, but it was slathered in barbecue sauce, which is high in corn syrup and sugar and other things, high in sodium. Not that I'm saying sodium is necessarily bad indefinitely, um, but the diet was very high in junk. Okay, sure, he was eating a lot of animal products, but with huge portions of junk. It was like junk food salad with, you know, a a good portion of animal products as well. So yeah, I don't think meat caused his heart attack. But at the same time, there are a lot of people actually who might be more sensitive to saturated fat. I think that you should get a 23andMe test, and I believe that they do test for a genetic, adaptation to, genetic sensitivity to saturated fat. But I don't really think it was a saturated fat. Honestly, I think, with the amount of deep fried foods he was eating, the amount of refined carbohydrates he was eating, the amount of sugar and other inflammatory foods he was eating, not to mention the guy literally loves food, like that was his whole life, you know. disordered eating patterns and just overeating junk tends to cause problems, even if you eat healthy a lot of the time. Like people like Furious Pete and his prostate cancer. But I think that there were, or testicular cancer, I think that there were other explanations for that guy's problem, really. So, all I'm saying is it was probably the refined foods the guy was eating. I mean, I think blaming it on meat is really foolish. There was a vegan that had a heart attack with a LDL level of like 65. I posted a video about this and broke it down for you guys. She had a LDL below 70. Total cholesterol was low as well. It was under 140. And she had a heart attack, and she was in her early 40s, or late 30s, early 40s. But her LDL was under 70, and she was following the advice of Dr. Esselstyn the whole time and still had a heart attack. Clearly, it's not meat and it's not LDL that causes heart disease. Her HDL was extremely low, it was like below 30, and her triglycerides were sky high. They're in the 200s, or they're close. They're like 190 to 220, somewhere in that range. Super high triglycerides, super low HDL. And she was vegan. LDL was below 70. She had a heart attack, like in her early 40s. So pretty much identical to this guy. The only thing is she was super skinny, healthy weight. This guy was slightly overweight, but not obese. And yet they both died of the same disease. So what is a common allowance in both of these diets? Well, high amounts of refined grains, refined sugar, and inflammatory oils. Especially considering she eats at like vegan restaurants and things, so she's probably eating a lot of deep fried vegan foods. Meat is not the cause of heart disease, and neither is saturated fat. And LDL is not the primary risk factor in heart disease. It's diabetes, it's triglycerides, and it's HDL. And LDL might play like a very slight secondary role. So, yeah, I mean, look for my video where I talked about that. Vegan dies of heart attack or whatever. And, yeah, so looking at the the similarities between everyone I know that's had a heart attack, and the vegan who had a heart attack, and then this guy had a heart attack, I think it's pretty obvious. Now, of course, there are people like Bob Harper who many people have claimed that he was advocating the use of like hardcore stimulants to lose weight, and not to mention he was following very restrictive, super low calorie, low carb, low fat diets to lose weight. Um, you know, that guy could have easily had a heart attack due to whatever drugs he might have been taking, which I don't know if he was or not, but many people claim that he was advocating the use of stimulants. Wasn't even, and he was eating most of it, and he was vegan for most of his years. And if you looked at his diet, he ate very low saturated fat. In fact, he would post pictures of healthy fat, and it was like a spoonful of almond butter. The guy did not eat saturated fat. So, yeah, I mean, so anyway, leave your questions and comments down below. This whole heart disease thing, sure, it's pretty complicated, but I think if you look at the totality of data, it is going to be your HDL in the optimal range will prevent heart disease. Triglycerides below 100 should prevent heart disease. Following a diet that's high in healthy fats, omega-3 and EPA, omega-3 DHA and EPA, low in glycemic load, and high in monounsaturated fat is a good idea. Okay, no matter what diet you're following, every diet can implement this strategy. And also eating enough minerals and nutrient-dense foods. Low glycemic load carbs generally have a high amount of these good minerals, fruits and vegetables, tubers, etc. This guy, Ruiz, he was not eating any of these. He was eating the complete opposite of the diet I just described, which is no surprise he had heart disease.